WeRiseNation.com.
This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud and clear. If you seek it, you will find what you looking for. And once you hear us, it'll leave you looking for some more. Open the door, let us in, we got a special vibe. Now close the door, lock us in, and enjoy the ride. We about to talk about some things that make a lot of sense. And what we talking about here sometimes will get intense. That's what we looking for, trying to spark a conversation. Join us live or you can listen on the We Rise Nation. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it, coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We about to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. This where the grown
Welcome
men
back
stay so
to
you can
another
kill that
edition
noise.
of the
We be
Grown
the
Men
best to do it,
Podcast.
coming out
I
of
am your host, BAN, and welcome back to the show. Well, folks, we got a lot of different topics that we come into and we want to discuss here on the Grown Men Podcast. Been getting a lot of feedback at WeRiseNation.com about different subjects that people want to talk about. We've been having some very interesting ones, but people have been talking about it all over on the internet about what's going on today. And the topic that I came across and I was discussing with people is why everything is political. So when we think about things being political, we never thought about the way you dress, the way you put your clothes on, the way you act, any of these things being political, right? But yet they are. You see, every day in this country and across the world, the very simple things that we do that we take for granted and don't think are serious can be taken political by different people. And I'm going to unpack a lot of that right here on the Grown Men Podcast. We're not going to cover everything, but I'm going to give my perspective of why I think everything is political. And here's something I jotted down and came across on the internet that says why everything is political. The phrase everything is political suggests that no matter how trivial or unrelated something may seem, it is ultimately intertwined with the realm of politics. This concept is supported by various reasons, including the following: understanding the world. Politics shapes our daily lives and decisions, making it essential to understand the political landscape to navigate life effectively. Rights and governance. Politics provides a framework for understanding and asserting one's rights, ensuring that citizens are aware of the laws and institutions that govern them. Self-discovery. Engaging with political ideologies help individuals discover their true selves and understand how their beliefs and actions impact society. Existentialism, the idea that personal choice have political implications, aligning with existentialist principles, emphasizing the individual's role in creating meaning and purpose in life. And finally, personal choices. Even seemingly trivial actions like clothing choices or relationships can have political significance, reflecting the interconnectedness of personal and political life. These reasons illustrate the persuasive influence of politics on our lives, reminding us that our choices and actions are not just personal, but also political. Well, right there, that to me says a lot, right? That's a lot to talk about because I look at it from a standpoint like this. When I was coming up, there was a television show on TV and everybody knows what it is. They no longer show it really on TV. And that was the Dukes of Hazzard. Now, at the time as a kid, I never, just equated. It wasn't in the realm of possibility for me to think about the Dukes of Hazzard being racist. However, there were a lot of people who had a problem with the Confederate flag being on top of that car. At that time, when I was young coming up, I never knew what that was about because, as I said before, we didn't know much about that era. Yes, we knew that there were people who wanted to enslave people, but we never entwined it with the Confederate flag. As we got older, however, we tend to think differently than we did back then. And then there was a big push, some years ago about not showing the Dukes of Hazzard, and it's been pulled. But look, pulling things off television tries to make it like that era didn't exist. And it did. And I mean, the old saying, ignorance is bliss, right? A lot of people were ignorant to what was going on. A lot of people weren't. As I said before, previous on this podcast, my parents didn't get into that big deal because, for the simple fact, as I said, it was hurtful for them and it's something that they didn't want to discuss. However, when I went out and got outside knowledge of what that Confederate flag meant, then my whole attitude changed. Did I still like the Dukes of Hazzard TV show? Yeah, and I still like it today. If it was on, I would watch it because that was something I watched in my childhood. As an adult, I understand now what the Confederacy was about. And do I care about the Confederacy? No. Why should I? However, there are some Black Americans, once again, as I've said before, that have Stockholm Syndrome. They really believe that the Confederacy was about Southern heritage and not about slavery, which obviously it was. But see, all of those things tie into being political, right? And here's the thing, what I think about it my opinion on it and why I think that politicizing everything is the wrong thing. Okay, take for instance, you're talking with one of your friends, right? And they have an opinion about whatever the topic may be, and your opinion is different, but they want to push this thing to the fullest. Well, see, now what we didn't have back then, we have a thing called the internet. So people can go and voice their opinions about everything under the sun, and they like to share those opinions with everyone. And sometimes everything shouldn't be shared with everyone because they don't feel the same way that you feel. And most of the times it's little small, petty, trivial things that don't matter to anyone else. However, when you post something online and it gains mass attention, whether it be negative or positive, depending on the perspective, then you have to look at the outcome of what it's going to look like for that person, right? They're going to get attention one way or the other. And the unfortunate part is that when we find other people who feel the same way, and they tend to want to take it to the next level, which means they make it a political issue. And then politicians start taking these issues and they run with them because they want to be elected. Not because they believe the same thing that you believe, but they are trying to win. And that's what sets up the political landscape that we have today. Now the rhetoric has gotten even higher. And it's gotten more violent, where it's caused insurrections. And you got things that's going on in the government right now where we can say anything under the sun to anyone else and nobody should feel offended and nobody should be feel put upon. That's what happens in these political systems because they take what random people say and they turn it into a movement, whether it be positive or negative. You see, when I was coming up, yes, people had politics. It always been. It always will be. But the point is that common sense usually prevailed in these situations. Politicians just weren't going out looking at the random guy who's at the bar and he's talking among his friends about why his taxes are high or, he believes that the people are eating babies or whatever they want to say under the sun without having any facts or proof. And if you get enough people to believe these foolish ideas and run with them, then you get a movement started. And that's how everything happens. And everything under the sun then starts to become political. There's nothing that isn't political. Look, as I've said before many times here on this podcast, there are a lot of things in this world that I don't agree with. But do I go out of my way to try to voice my opinion to people who may not feel the same way as I do? No, because it's my personal opinion once again. And you can say that about this podcast that I'm sitting here recording right now, that it's my personal views and opinions. But what I try to share with is that just because someone doesn't feel the same way that you feel doesn't mean that you should, make light of the situation or their feelings. No. However, when people go out of their way to try to step on other people with their feelings and opinions, then I have to speak on it. And that's what we do here at the Grown Men Podcast. We're going to give you opinion, yes, but most of the time our opinions can be backed by facts, or it's just a feeling that we have. But when you take a look at the landscape and you see the way someone dresses, right off the bat, people start thinking this about them or that about them without even knowing the person, without even stopping to talk to the person and ask them why they feel this way. And then what happens is you get a bunch of people yelling back and forth at each other. No one can hear the other person's thoughts. It's just two groups of people that are very angry. And right now, the political landscape is setting the standard for how we live our everyday lives. People now are afraid to go outside and be who they are because they might feel retribution from someone else for something they didn't do and they have nothing to do with. They just want to live their lives. However, our lives are now so entwined with politics that we can no longer do that. It's everywhere. It's in the clothes we wear. It's in the television programs we watch, the movies we go to, the sports we watch. I know it is for myself, and it's unfortunate that it's come to that, but it has. And the reason for that, if you ask me, is the current temperature in this country, which is running hot. And this is being fed by one person, and that's my belief. Because yes, you had politics before Donald Trump came along, and politics was what it was. It was arguing back and forth, which it has always been. However, the temperature got higher, especially after Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, because then a lot of people in this country started to feel that was the last institution that white Americans could hold on to, that they knew that they had the presidency. They knew that that was one thing that was sacred for them. Some white Americans felt that way. Others didn't. But then it became a situation where a strong man type leader came along, and that's what they say Donald Trump is. He came along and the political landscape changed because he knew that in order for him to win the White House, he had to listen to these people. And that's the problem before. You see, all other politicians before them, they didn't listen to those people that was far off in the corner and seemed to them deranged. People that were either making things up or they actually have sick minds where they believe the things that were going on. Because once again, it goes with a group of people getting together and having this sense that I'm going to say this, I'm going to throw this against the wall and see if it sticks. And a lot of times it does. That's why you see all these people with these podcasts and these videos that they make, because they want to get on there and they want to say what they want to say and give their opinion, and they want you to identify with that. And when you say, yeah, they're right about this, or yeah, they're right about that, then you become hooked. Then it becomes like you are in a cult. And that's what a lot of these people have failed victim to, is being in cults, because they actually believe this stuff that people are saying. And it's one of these situations that I don't see it really getting any better. And a lot of people believe that when the next administration gets in there, it'll be better. But I really don't believe that. I don't think that this is going away anytime soon. I just believe that people are too wired up and they want people to believe anything and everything that they say, no matter what, without doing any fact checking, without going to find out for your own self, instead of just believing everything that you hear. And it's an unfortunate part that it has come to that in politics, because, as I said before, there's a lot of bureaucracy in politics as it is. And now we got more stuff that's muddying up the waters. It's one of these situations where we're going to continue to see the same thing. And people talk about it all the time. And when I'm discussing it with them, they're saying, what's going on with the way that person is thinking. And I'm like, yeah, but see, the problem is they're online. So they have an audience for that. They're not just saying these things because they're giving an opinion and they're going to walk away from it. No, they're trying to garner a following. And in other words, they're going to make money off of this. That's why a lot of the people that are in position right now in the government, they're there because they're trying to further their agenda. They're trying to capitalize and make money off the job and the title that they have. That's what this is all about right now and today. And the person who's in charge of the country right now is the biggest one of all time. It's profit over anything else. And this is what we have. So the political landscape is kind of messed up right now. I don't know if it will straighten itself out. In my opinion, I don't think it will in my lifetime, for the rest of my time I have living, because the cat is out of the bag now. And everybody has internet. Everybody has a podcast. Everybody has something going on, right? One way or the other, where they're going to get their thoughts and their opinions out there and publicize it. I mean, I could be guilty of that right now, right? Because I'm sitting here on this podcast telling you about this, but I'm not telling you to tell you what to do. You have your own freedom of choice. And that's what a lot of people tend to not understand, that they have to choose one side or the other. But the thing is, you have to do what's right for you. And sometimes what's right for you aligns with what other people are doing. And that's the unfortunate part. Because myself, I've always been the type of person that I like to do what I like to do and not what someone else likes to do. That's what makes me an individual. It's just like when I was younger, right? And guys in my neighborhood, they would all wear certain things because they wanted to fit in with the crowd. Well, I always wore something different because I didn't want to fit in with the crowd. I wanted to be an individual. That's what We Rise is about. Wise, educated, respected individuals successfully eating. That's the term that we came up with. And the reason for that is we are individuals. Yes, when we come together, we're like Voltron, but we are individuals that can do things on our own. And see, that is what's going on in this country right now, is that a lot of people are not doing things on their own. They're quick to join up with other people to try to get their point across instead of being an individual, until it comes up to that point where they come into disagreement. And then that's when it really starts to get thick. We see that going on right now in the government as people are leaving, the MAGA base based on things that they didn't like, that the president of the United States said himself. So my thing about that is that it's good until it's not. And that's a lot of things that people don't tend to understand is that when someone says something that you don't necessarily agree with, then you feel put out, right? You feel out of place. You thought the movement was about this, but then it turns out that it's not. See, that's called being disappointed. And that's what people have always done since the beginning of time, right? They've had leaders in place. And then when that leader doesn't do the thing that he said he was going to do, or he does something that you don't agree with, then you feel put out. When actually you're the one who put yourself in that position, because you're not supposed to follow no man. There's no man on earth you should be following right now other than your own understanding. And for me, I follow my belief in my God, because ultimately that's the one that I have to answer to. I don't have to answer to anyone else on this planet. I have to answer to my God when it's my time. And when he says, son, did you do the right thing? Did you do the best you could do? When I give that up and say, yes, I did, then hopefully I'll be given the glory that I feel that I should be in, if that's the way my life went. So that's what a lot of people have to understand when they think about why everything is political. It's because everybody out here has their own agenda. And they use the political side to persuade people to come over to their side so financially they can benefit. We see this happen all the time, every day. It continues to be an ongoing thing, whether it be someone being a paid influencer because they're influencing you to buy something, or they're telling you to do this or do that. They're not doing it to help you. They're doing it to benefit them. And it's up to us to understand which is which. And unfortunately, a lot of us just don't. Either we don't know or we don't care, and we need something to guide us. And we don't know what that is. And see, the whole thing about anyone guiding you in the first place is they'll always let you down. No matter how great you think that individual is, they're only human beings like yourself. You've let people down. I've let people down. We all have. So we can't all say we're leaders and doing everything by the book, because we don't. None of us do. But we do the best we can. At least that's what we should. But when everything is so political, what do you do? How do you navigate your way through your life if everything based on politics? No matter what you do, people are going to deem it as political, even though you don't mean it that way. And then at the end of the day, you're going to be forced to choose a side. What side will you choose? What will you do? These are the things that we talk about all the time in this society. Because what's going on right now is that people don't know what side to pick. One week you're on this side, the next week you're on another side because that side didn't do what they said they were going to do. Here's what I think, in my opinion. I just think you should be who you are and make decisions based on what is going to help you and be beneficial to you and your family if you have one. At the end of the day, right, you only have to answer to yourself. Yes, we need politics, but not for that reason. Politics, nor should politicians be telling you how to live your everyday life. That is up to you. However, if you choose to live your life in a manner that is going to damage other people's lives, then you should have to change the way you think. Because at the end of the day, you're going to wind up somewhere that you simply don't want to be. But politics is a thing that it garners us all. It's part of our makeup. Unfortunately, in life, we have to deal with these things, not that we want to, but we have to. Because when it's right in front of you, you have no other choice but to address it. And at the end of the day, some people are going to say, if you don't pick our side, then you must be on their side. No, that's not what it is. If I agree with something right here and I disagree with something else, that doesn't mean I'm not with the movement that we're trying to get accomplished. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just I have a different way of getting there. And that's the way I'm going to take. I don't want people telling me what I should or shouldn't do. I didn't like it when I was a kid, didn't like it when I was a teenager, and I don't like it as an adult. Because I make decisions based on what is best for me and my family. And that's what you should be doing as well. At the end of the day, whatever you believe in, and yes, you might get ridiculed for your beliefs, but that's part of the whole package. But also that's on you if you choose to go out and share those beliefs. Like the type of person I am, no, you're not going to see me out there protesting. You're not going to see me out there doing any of that rah, rah, rah. But at the end of the day, I'm just as passionate as you are, but I just do it in different ways. I might write a blog. I might do a podcast. I might talk amongst people who are like-minded people like myself. Because see, there are some people, and I know in politics, they have to go out and talk to everyone, right? But there are some people who have already made up their minds even before you say anything out of your mouth, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to change their opinion. And you have to leave that alone. Sometimes we have to take those L's, even though we don't want to. But at the end of the day, when you've done all that you can do and you've done the best that you can do to try to persuade someone to agree with you if you're a politician, because that's the only way you should be doing that in the first place. If you're just a regular citizen talking to a regular citizen, you really have no right and no standing to tell somebody what they should be voting for. Because at the end of the day, it's their personal choice. However, you can tell them, look, this is what's happening right now. Is your life truly better? If not, give what we're saying a chance. And then hold us accountable when we don't do what we said we're going to do. See, that's the thing that we don't do. We don't follow up in politics. And a lot of us say, well, I'm not political. Well, everything you do is political. This is what we're talking about right here today. This is the topic. Because if you choose to do nothing and you let that be known that you did nothing, then you're open for ridicule. Because you flat out did nothing when it was time to do something. And people are going to call you out about that, especially right now in the climate that we're in. Whether it be the internet or wherever else, if they see you in person or they're out protesting, they're going to call you out because you didn't make a choice one way or the other. So people knew where you stood. And see, that's what happens when you go out and you do the things that you do and you say the things that you say to other people, because people are always filming people. They got TikTok videos, Instagram reels, Facebook reels, and all these other different things where you can be seen in plain sight making political statements by your actions. So people get that kind of twisted up when they think that, you know, what they saying shouldn't be televised and people are putting cameras in their face and things of that nature. Well, if you're not out being political, no one has any reason to be putting you on video. But if you're out there and you're acting a certain way and you're saying certain things and think that people are not going to pick up on that, if you're out being racist or you're out being homophobic or anything that you're out doing, don't think that people are not going to call you out about it. And then it becomes part of a political landscape. It becomes part of a political thing because for the simple fact, you disagree with something and you did it publicly. See, back in the day, you could say something and you got away with it because only you and a few other people that may have been in that location know about it. But now when you do that, everyone knows about it instantly because somebody's recording it and they're putting it online for other people to see. And this is exactly what is going on in society today. So I say, if you're racist, if you're homophobic, or any of those things under the sun, keep them to yourself. Don't show it. But see, in this political landscape we're in right now, it can be shown because the president of the United States does it himself. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's the way we are living right now. And it's an unfortunate situation because then it works its way into other parts of our lives as well. As we continue to see this all the time, whether it be friends at work or co-workers or neighbors and people in society in general. If you don't like anything about them, you're quick to blame their political ideology for why. When shootings happen, it's political. Someone gets robbed, it's political. Someone does anything under the sun, it's political. Why couldn't it just be this person did this because this is who they are, because they're a bad character? That's what people don't tend to understand. They always look for a reason why someone does something. Oh, he was a Trump supporter, or he was a Democrat, or whatever. I mean, it just, to me, is endless rhetoric. When somebody commits a crime, it's because they have issues. It doesn't necessarily reflect political one way or the other, because if someone tells you to do something, yes, at the end of the day, they have to be held accountable. Not the person that told them, because the person that told them only gave them that information. That's why when we talk about it and we think about the power that you have when you become a politician to talk to millions and millions of people, you should be watching what you're saying. At the end of the day, the president has a lot of power that is bestowed upon him when he's elected to the office. However, he also has a responsibility. The two go hand in hand. And I believe that everyone should be held to that same standard. A lot of people said, no, they shouldn't be. No, I disagree with that. My opinion is, if you continue to tell somebody to go out and kill people, and it's a message that you continue to say all the time, if that person goes out and kills someone, you have to have some kind of accountability. Now, I know it's nothing legal that says that. But at the end of the day, if you have any kind of conscience, you'll have to say to yourself, I'm responsible for that. And there's a lot of things that go on in my life that I don't feel like that I should have took the gate for, but I did, and I sucked it up, and I went on with my life. But see, we don't do that. We double down on things even though we are wrong. And that's what people are doing right now. And that's why everything is so political. Because, see, people don't want to admit when what they were saying or doing was wrong in the first place. They double down on it because they don't want to be wrong. We've all been there with that, right? But when the facts are in front of you and they're in your face, you have no choice but to accept it. You can keep denying it all you want to. And we know that this comes from the top, because the president of the United States has continued to deny he lost an election. And he'll continue to deny that. Instead of just saying, hey, I took an L, but I came back and I got a W, which he did. And be grateful and thankful for that. But see, not him. And there are a lot of individuals out here just like him. And their narrative is, I was right. I'm always right, and I'm never wrong. Everything I do is right. Yes, we do that when we're teenagers, when we're kids. But as adults, people with common sense sit back and say, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. That was a bad move. That was on me. And I have to live with the fallout from it. That's what most people do, right? However, there is a section of people who just believe they're right about everything and they're never wrong. And when it comes to politics, that can be a deadly situation. We continue to see people killing and doing things and talking about people and everything else. It's one of these situations where we continue to see it and yet we do nothing about it. We continue down this path. Instead of saying things like, look, you know what? This is a wrong thing. We shouldn't be doing this, but we're still doing it anyway. And I think it's one of those situations that in the future, it may change. We don't know. All we can try to do is make people understand that everything doesn't have to be about politics. If I don't like something, it's not because it's political. It's just something that to me doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't have to be one of those situations where, oh, he's political. That's why he don't like that. No, it has nothing to do with that. It doesn't do anything for me personally. So, I come across a lot of different things and I talk about them every day with people, and we discuss these issues all the time as to why someone did something. And then someone else will say, well, he did that because he seen them tell him to do that. So he went with it. And that may be true, but for a lot of reasons, it was the wrong move for him to make. And it wasn't about politics. It was about him making the wrong move. Because see, a lot of times, especially here in the black community, from a lot of people that I talk to, and I know that the percentage of the people I talk to, as me and Mark discuss it all the time, it doesn't weigh heavy to the overall landscape, right? But I think it does in pockets, because if you got people in communities, whether they're co-workers or whatever, and you guys are talking about what's going on, most of them will tell you, at least the ones I've talked to, that said they're not political and that it does nothing for them because they haven't seen politics make a move for them. And to that, I always say, we have to look at it from a standpoint of what are we looking for in our politicians? What do we want our politicians to do, right? For us. Because at the end of the day, when we vote for them, we shouldn't be voting for them just because we like them or that it's the lesser of two evils. We should be voting for someone who is going to be looking out for the best interests of us as constituents. And at the end of the day, you have to make that choice. However, when you're given facts about what's going on and you still ignore those facts and say, you know what, I'm not getting involved in that, then you're giving up your right, especially us as Black Americans, when there were people who lived, fought, and died for those rights. And see, as I talk to people all the time, the further we get away from that whole movement, the less people think about it. And they just think that the ultimate answer is always going to be more money, more money, more money. And that's not always the answer. It may be the answer for you as an individual, but not for us as a whole, meaning all Black Americans to prosper. And how we prosper is we have great paying jobs. We have good medical. We have all the things, all the human rights that we all deserve, want, and deserve. And then we can say, now we're starting to prosper, because then we can all work together to make this world a better place. And the main goal should be off the bat is no hunger. And even hunger has become political. Think about it right now, where some 600,000 people, kids, on the continent of Africa died because they couldn't get food because of politics right here in the United States of America. So think about something that's so far away and how it affects us right here at home. And it continues to affect us all in our communities, in our neighborhoods. That's why you see so many people during the holiday season. They're giving out free turkeys. They're giving out free food. You think they're doing that and the people that are lining up to do that are just trying to run some kind of scam? What would be the benefit from that? However, that's also labeled as political. So many things that I can talk about right here, but I don't have enough time to tell you can be used as political. And anybody who uses it as political, meaning if you got politicians out, we see it all the time. They out serving in the soup lines and the trade lines and they're doing all that stuff. My thing about that is, look, we know that it plays good, right? In the sticks, and people see people doing these things and they say, oh, that's a good guy. And he may be a good guy. But the whole point is, I don't like that being politicized one way or the other. I don't like them using it for their benefit, and I don't like their detractors using it as a negative. If someone wants to truly go out and help people, help them. You don't have to talk about it. Jimmy Carter built houses for people for years. He didn't have to get out and politicize it. This was after his political career was over. So why was he doing it? He was doing it because God told him to do so. So that's what he did. And that's why he's probably in heaven right now, where most of us want to go at the end of the day. We want to go to heaven. We want to be accepted into the kingdom. But we have to do the work in order to get there. And the work is to make life better for God's people. But if we're not doing that, if we're out being political by saying this person is bad because of the way they think, then that's a different story. My thing is, when I see what's going on right now and I see everything being political, I always say to myself, stay within myself, which means I'm not a joiner. A lot of people ask me to join their movements, and I'm not going to do that. We may have some things that we agree on, but there also may be a lot of things that we disagree on. Until you talk to me as an individual, you don't know how I feel. And that's how I see it for everyone. Each individual should be taken as just that, an individual, and not part of a group. Because once you start grouping everyone into one thing, then it becomes difficult to decipher, what do we truly believe in? What is our common goal? What are our causes? Because if it's something that I don't necessarily agree with, then I'm going to feel uncomfortable joining it. That's why I haven't joined a lot of organizations in my life. There's a reason for that. Because I know that at the end of the day, no one is perfect. And no one person is going to believe in everything that you believe in. That's why I just kick back. I look at things from a perspective. I make my choices. And then I vote for what I think is going to be right for my family and myself. And at the end of the day, we know what politics is about. And we have to push these politicians to do better for us. Because at the end of the day, it's not a job. It's a sacred, job. It's a sacred institution and a thing to have a job as a politician, because you're representing the people from your particular district or state, or, in the government, the federal government. You're representing everyone. You can't just represent one group of people. And yet we see this over and over again. As I said before, whoever wins the White House at that point, right, when you're going for president, I believe that that person should give up their political affiliation once they become president. because you have to work for both sides. That's how it works. It's a balancing act. It can't be one-sided. It has to work both ways. And the people who are elected in these positions have to be able to come together for a common goal and say, you know what, this is the best we can do right now for the Americans, instead of lying to people. Because that's the thing. Don't tell me something on the political trail that you can do, and once you're elected, it doesn't get done, because then that makes you look like a failure, and that makes you look like a liar. But see, in this political landscape that we're in right now, lying is part of the whole deal, because we see it every day. If you turn on the news, if you read news in print, or whether it's online, you hear the same things coming out of these politicians' mouths. Some of it is fact, some of it is fiction, and sometimes it's hard to decipher between one and the other. But we see with our own eyes, and we feel what we feel about what's going on, and then we make that choice. And that's the way it should be. Because at the end of the day, when you start aligning yourself with other people, and then they do something that you can't comprehend them doing, then you get that feeling of remorse. And that's what a lot of people are having right now. If you look at the Magda base, that's what people are having, buyer's remorse. The things that we saw a long time ago, but they didn't see, now they see. And they're trying to distance themselves from that. I do believe that one day there will be a time where the people can get back to normal politics. But I don't think it should be the way that it used to be. It can't be. In that aspect, you cannot go backwards. You have to move forward. But you move forward with the knowledge of what happened right now in this era. That's how you move forward. You don't move forward by saying, okay, we're going to take it back to before this era happened. No, you can't do that, because that didn't work for everyone. Most of the people said that politics in Washington has been broken a long time, and it really needs to be fixed. Not a stopgap, but a complete fix, meaning being transparent with the people. Full transparency in what's going on. If you bring something to the table that your constituents want and it doesn't get done, or a piece of that legislation doesn't get done, go to the people and tell them why it didn't get done. What was the reason? Was it financial? Was it didn't work for everyone? Because that's the thing. We live in different states, and different states work different ways. So sometimes things don't get done over a technicality. It may be that this state can't do this because of whatever the reason, right? All states have different climate. They have, different ways of doing things. Everything is different and everything is not the same. But we have to be transparent with our constituents and let them know why these things are happening or why it didn't happen. And, with politics, sometimes it gets a little muddy because you start seeing personal grievances between politicians, and then nothing gets done. They forget what they were sent there for in the first place, and that is to represent the people. We, as the constituents, are all that matters at the end of the day, not scoring political points with who may be a senator, a congressman, a president, or whoever. Your job is to represent your constituents first. Anything else would be unacceptable. But sometimes people get lost, right? And when they get in this political fight, they become adversaries. And it becomes a war and a battle. And at that point, that politician doesn't want to talk to that politician, or that politician's staff doesn't want to talk to that politician's staff. We already have that in communities. That's why things don't get done on the lower level. But on the higher level, we expect more out of you because we voted for you to represent us. So we are expecting more right off the bat. And getting less is unacceptable. We should always strive for more, and our politicians who we put in charge should strive for more as well. Because we're all trying to work for the common goal in this country is to make it affordable and a better place for us all to live and prosper. We need to stop the rhetoric. We need to tone it down. Stop being politically correct about everything, because we all say things that sometimes people would be in shock that we even said. And it has nothing to do with we feel a certain way about people. It's just that's what was on our mind. But I've said before, it's no excuse for racism or sexism or homophobism or anything else. There is never any excuse or place for that. If you feel a certain way, you have to put your big boy or big girl pants on and leave that at home. And people who see these people as being that way understand that those people are not going to change who they are. And at the end of the day, you can yell, shout, scream, and do everything under the sun. Those people are going to still feel the same way that they feel because either they were taught that way or they develop feelings for that concept. And those people, I just generally say, you know what? I don't deal with them. Because at the end of the day, it's wasting my time. And a lot of people say you should always strive to bring out the best in people. But there are some people you can't bring the best out in. You can only wish the best for them and hope they have a better life. But at the end of the day, it's up to them to choose what type of life they want to live. Now, when it comes to violent acts and things of that nature, yes, we should intervene always, especially when there's women and children involved, because they are the most vulnerable to people who want to commit crimes. But when it comes to all this other stuff under the sun, they want to fly Confederate flags or they want to honor Confederate monuments. At the end of the day, that's their deal. And you don't have to fall victim to what they have going on in their mind. Because everyone knows the facts about what happened in the Civil War. We don't have to dredge it up and talk about it all the time. We know what it was fought for. We know what it was about. And they can dress it up and turn it into whatever they want to. But at the end of the day, we have to stop giving that play. We have to move on with our lives and get along and help our children and grandchildren so they can one day take over and learn not to repeat the past mistakes. We have to give them the best information that we can give them. We have to give them all the knowledge that we can to help them make the better choices for their future. And we have to stop being so petty as well. And we have to stop being so thin-skinned as well. Because people have said a lot of things to me in my lifetime. And there were times where I could have said something back, but I didn't because I know what it would lead to. It wouldn't lead to anything good. Yes, I'm always going to speak my mind. I've always been cut from that. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's best not to say anything. That's what we have to do. So why is everything political, you ask me? Well, I think from my perspective that everything is political because it is perceived that way. It doesn't necessarily have any basis to it, right? We don't necessarily wake up in the morning and say, this is what we're going to do. And whatever decision I make is going to be deemed political. Whether it's what coffee I drink, what color clothes I wear, what color car I drive, makes me political. No. What makes you political is when you decide to jump into the fray and you make statements and you join groups and you base your statements made on what a group says and not you as an individual. Some people get so caught up in it where they're tired of a certain situation and they blame certain people for this situation instead of looking in the mirror and blaming themselves. Because see, it's very easy to point the finger at someone else rather than stand up in that mirror and point the finger at yourself. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that is responsible for what type of person you become and what type of people that your children become. Because you have the ultimate influence in helping them to be better people. And at the end of the day, if you don't do that, then you must look at yourself and say, what did I do to put my family in this position? Well, folks, it appears my time is up. I'm glad you came in to listen to me speak on this topic because it's an important topic, and we're going to have more topics in the future like this and about these issues. Head on over to WeRiseNation.com. Check out some of the things we got going on over there. We're always updating the website, different things going up, whether it be music, whether it be topics on politics, or it could be anything. Just head over there and check out what we have going on. Well, folks, until next week, I am your host, BAN, and I will talk to you soon.
The grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We about to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud and clear.